What's up, everybody? Now I'm on. Sorry, I was all muted there. Um, Welcome. It's Lacrosse Goalie Wednesday. It's the only thing happening today, by the way. I got 3 messages this morning wondering if I was going to do my Facebook Live today because there's like something else going on today, and I'm not really sure what. So I am from Boston, but I live in Canada, so like I'm kind of oblivious to what's going on. But no, totally kidding. Not so. Hey, John Lewis, good to see you. Jonathan Redfern, yes, it's a disco in here with the music. I don't know what else to do. Um, I'll find some royalty free music that I can move to, but I kind of dig it, man. It gets me in my mood on this end. So, hello to everybody. Listen, as you check in, do me a huge favor. Just leave me a like or a heart or a quick little comment. Let me know where you're from. Facebook loves that. It gives it more energy. It spreads the word. Mike Tupin, what's up, buddy? Michael, is that Michael Strasser? Who's that? I'm Michael S. So Michael S. Good to see you, buddy. Welcome. Got a lot of good stuff to talk about today, as always, as we always do. So I'm psyched that you're here. So wherever you are in the world, I hope you're staying safe and staying and all that good stuff. It's yeah, it's pretty nuts, and it's getting nuttier, right? So let's put it that way. So a couple things, as is always, welcome, and to our new Lacrosse Goalie University members, please. Um, uh, Welcome. This is our weekly Facebook Lives here. But for our Lacrosse Goalie University members that get our monthly goalie audits and our coaching, all that stuff, it's really good. I'm really excited to work with them. Hey, Michael Strakes, good to see you, buddy. Sorry, Michael S. You're all hiding there. Hello to Christina. Joel Rose is in. Got who's that from Colorado? This is great. We got good stuff going on. Who's coming in from Colorado? John Lewis and sweet. All right, I've got to see a little bit of a common issue here, so I can't tell where everybody is. But listen, a lot of great stuff going on. A lot of my goalies are still playing, obviously. For you, your goalie may be off. I know for Joe Rose, you got a rough game. Was that this last weekend or this coming weekend? Looking forward to kind of a tough outing. We're going to talk about some stuff today that is going to help that because, I think across the board, one of the challenges we have with club lacrosse, and for those of you guys that heard our talk last week when I interviewed Jim Beardmore there, us like older generation lacrosse guys, Mike Parash, good to see you, buddy, from Colorado. Snow in Colorado, by the way, right? But one of the things we're talking about with the whole idea of club lacrosse is that it's a necessary evil. It's a beast on its own. It is what it is, and it's easy to have like fear of missing out syndrome if you're not playing. But then when you finally get to play, there's this pressure on it that is still somewhat uncommon to an older generation of coaches, right? Which is when we're looking at like development of athletes specifically, if you're going to this weekend and it's like another weekend where you're shelling out like a boatload of money and it's a chance to get seen and it's a chance to there's all this pressure that when you play like kind of in a high school season and you've got like 8, 10, 12, 14 games and you're playing for like a tournament, at the end of the season, you can lose it. You can play a couple games and you're going to have games where that are easier, but you can have games when they're going to be harder, but you have games where you can also relax a little bit. And so in long-term athlete development, so in long-term athlete development, which was literally like created by a guy up in Vancouver, Canada, a guy named Istvan Bali, who is I can't believe he's Czech or whatever, but he's the guy that really invented the concept of long-term athlete development. He came to Canada and started like basically promoted this idea. And then what every sport did was like basically the idea with long-term athlete development was like you're going to play, you're going to have this base of athleticism. You're going to grow up playing different sports, and then within the time that you play, when you play competitively, you're going to have, and I call this my Goldilocks theory of lacrosse. Or my Goldilocks theory of playing is like you're gonna have some games where it's too hot, you're gonna have some games when it's too cold, and you're gonna have some games where the competition is just right? And I'm gonna talk about that actually a little bit today. And it seems with tournaments all the time, it's always like the porridge, man, it's hot. and even if it's like cool, it's like we can't treat it as cool. It's got to be hot. So it kind of pressure packs our kids a little bit. And this doesn't matter if your goalie is like a Division I prospect or if your goalie is like 11 and they're just figuring it out. One of my lacrosse goalie universities is 11 years old. They're from a non-hotbed of lacrosse and they travel every weekend for like an hour. To go play, and it's a big toll. And as parents, it's like, oh man, we're spending money again, and kids sense that, right? Kids sense that too. So I don't necessarily always think that's the best thing, but it's the environment we're in, and what I teach all my goalies is we got to be ready to play, no matter what. Right, we got to be ready to go. If it's snowing and we've been looking forward to this weekend for 2 weeks, and now we got to go, and it's going to be crappy weather. Are you going to be able to play? And so on that note, for some of you guys that don't know, so I run a website called Lacrosse Goalie, Athlete Specific, and you can see right now. And I got a lot of free resources over there. So like lacrosse is my love, and but training athletes in a variety of sports is kind of my other bread and butter. And I work with professional athletes. I work with Olympic caliber athletes, Division I athletes, things like that. So I run a whole mental performance coaching program over there, and it's at athletespecific.com. And so if you haven't headed over there, a lot of free resources up there. Just the webinar, actually at the top is it's an hour's worth of content there that I think every athlete and parent should watch. Also got a bunch of free resources there. So if you haven't checked that out, go check out athletespecific.com. And yeah, pretty proud of that. Pretty proud of what I do over there. So also big shout out. I thought I'd point this one out for those of you guys that are in our group at Creating a Lacrosse Goalie of the Future on Facebook, which is a free group, but you got to answer the 3 questions. If you don't answer the 3 questions, I don't let you in. But this was Jonathan Redfern's daughter, Lauren, who I talked to this past week. And where I got some screens open here. There she goes. All right, this is her in her dorm room. So she's been COVID quarantined in her dorm, and she both her dad and I said, you got to train like a prisoner. And so she turns her mattress up on, and she's doing basically rebounding work off the mattress. And this is a workout. Like, this is an absolute workout. Now, I'm sure every parent in here noticed the window behind the mattress, but whatever, we'll just let that go. I was all for the work. So this is a great job for Lauren. She's got like 8 days left, I think. So in quarantine, which sucks. So she was having a really good fall. And Lauren plays both D and goalie for her college team. And I can't remember what the college team is. She is. Jonathan, what team is it? But was having a good fall, was excited to play, and then COVID hit. So there she goes. But I thought this was pretty cool. So, all right. So listen, I didn't do this last week. I forgot to do it with Jim. I was kind of doing my book recommendation of the week, and I think I might do every other week, but whatever. So the book of the week this week is Flow by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. All right. So this is a big read. All right. So this is a big read. So if you're into performance in a general sense, if you're into sports performance specifically, and so Mihai Csikszentmihalyi did the kind of the pioneering research on the idea of flow, like so playing in the zone, things like that, and so this was kind of his seminal work. I can't remember this was first written in 1990, right? So this book is like 30 years old, and I can't remember how long I've had it for, but if you can grind through it, this is going to teach you a lot about flow. Now, the interesting thing about flow, and what I want all our athletes to understand and our parents to understand is the idea of flow is kind of like this. Oh yeah, if we're in the zone, if we're playing really well, if we're feeling it, then we're gonna have a good performance. Where this kind of got bastardized was this idea that you have to be in flow to perform well. And while flow is great, not all elite performances have to happen in flow, right? So if you're in a competitive environment, meaning like if you and I are competing against each other, if we're both having a bad day, right, we're not in flow, that's okay. One of us is going to win, right? One of us is going to win today. So the idea is like, if I'm not in flow, oh my God, I'm hooped, because what I'm assuming there is that you are in flow and I'm not, and that gives you an advantage, and that's not true. Okay. So the idea of flow, when this originally came out, was this idea of like, it's a common feeling across all sorts of people, right? So from astronauts to lacrosse goalies to, nuns in, I think one of the stories in here is about like, Buddhist monks. I can't remember. They're not Buddhist, but monks who basically sit out in the cold, and they can get to a mental state where they increase their internal head's the temperature, and they can create so much heat that they can dry a wet towel on their back in sub-freezing temperatures. Like, that was pretty serious. That, when I first read that, I was like, that's pretty damn cool. All right. But the idea is that we don't want to be, we're not fighting for, um, we're not fighting for flow and then assuming that if we're not in flow, we're going to have a bad day, because um, in a um, competitive environment, we might not be in flow. One of the cool concepts in that book, in flow, by the way, is the idea of team flow. And this is something that because we're all here with goalies, this sometimes feel like we're pretty lonely. All right, our goalies in the cage just doing their own thing, and sometimes it feels like they're the only one in flow, right? When the rest of the team is just jerking off and like whatever, they're just, pardon me, that's not the right term, but you know what I mean? Like, everybody's like off in all sorts of directions, not paying attention. You're like, come on, guys, focus, right? Girls too. But the concept of team flow is one where, when we can get a group and we get some group think going on, and we see really good stuff happening, that's a flow state. But it's rare. It doesn't happen all the time, and it's not an excuse if you don't have it to perform well. Okay, so all right, moving on. So I got an email yesterday. I was looking for the email, but I got an email yesterday from a dad wondering my thoughts on the Nutty Buddy uh, goalie cup. Okay, so now listen, if you got a female goalie, I think the cup conversation is also important um, for um, uh, for girls as well. All right, so sorry, there we go. Hey there, Chris Kunkel, good to see you, buddy. And Chris, that was a great. By the way, for those of you guys that didn't, if you're in the group, or sorry, she was on my Facebook page. Um, Chris's son uh, had a great run to midfield this weekend. Did a great job, got tripped up and things like that. But it was a really good. It was an epiphany for his goalie, because his goalie had rarely ever run out of the cage. Okay, and so it was great to finally see that chance where he went and he did it and he was good, and so that was awesome. So if you haven't seen that, check that out. I think it's on my Facebook page, not in the group, but good stuff. Um, yeah, this dad emails me and he goes, "Hey, I heard about this Nutty Buddy goalie cup, and what were my thoughts on it?" So in our group at Creating Lacrosse Goalie of the Future, we do have a couple good threads about cups. Okay, and the Nutty Buddy comes up every once in a while. However, I tend to delete the posts, and so I'm going to explain why. Because one of the things about it is that, yeah, this is why somebody always writes, "My son loves that cup." Okay, fair enough. All right, but I'm going to talk to you about why I don't recommend it. And the tough thing here is that a lot of times people get really passionate about the equipment they use. I look solely at equipment as a means to do two things. Okay, I wrote about this in my book, In an Athlete's Guide to Winning in Sports and Life, that protection serves two purposes. One is to protect you from the inevitable bumps and bruises in whatever your sport is, right? But the second thing that it does is it allows you to play it basically expands your level of safety, your sense of safety, to pursue different levels of play. Okay, so um, so I think that's really important to understand. So some people go like, "Well, oh, I love this piece of equipment that I use," and yet what's happened is that, and they don't even know this, is like subconsciously they are playing in a realm of safety, but they're not willing to go above and beyond it. So let me explain. So using like the off stick hip save as an example, I've been a proponent for years that our goalies need to start to learn how to make that save with their bottom hand. Right? It's not that oh, it's a mistake. I got my hand there and I didn't get my stick there. No, it's like, can you make that save putting your bottom hand in front of that ball, like a hockey goalie would as a blocker? Because when you think about it, like, it's just geometry. There's times when we can't get our stick head there fast enough, right? But the question is like, are you willing to put your glove in front of that ball? And usually the answer is yeah, but to a point. Because if the glove at any point feels like it's no longer protecting, the brain's going to go, I'm not going to do it now, because remember that last time we tried that and then we got that really weird sprain on our knuckle, like we're never doing that again. That is important to understand, because your goalie at a certain level may go, all right, I'm comfortable with this piece of equipment, but outside of this, they might not know that it's actually limiting them, right? That they could do better with another piece of equipment. And then what happens is like, well, there's a comfort issue. And so I'm going to get to that in a second. Okay. So yeah, hard edges. Yeah. Yuck. Exactly. Um, so a couple things I wanted to start by talking about. Like, I have no vested interest in any product I recommend on Lacrosse Goalie Tips, Lacrosse Goalie. Like, I don't like when it comes to equipment like sticks and helmets and gloves and chest protectors, I am solely talking from like an unbiased position. I don't get any money from any of this stuff. And that is something that I think you should all be wary of, because when somebody recommends a product to you, you got to be understanding that, like, okay, what's in it for them. Okay, for me, what's in it for you is what I hope is that a level of respect and mutual appreciation, that someday you'll become a client of mine and I'll get to coach your goalie. That's it. That's like, I'm going to lead with that, right? Because ultimately your goalie, to be successful in this sport, or any sport for that matter, needs to feel confident in their equipment, and they need an unbiased voice that's going to tell them that this is good and this is not necessarily good, and here's the reasons why. Okay, so as long as you're open to that, then we've got a good relationship here. Okay, so um so the first thing, and for those of you guys, I got a screenshot here. Boom, there it is. If you look at your screen, yeah, if you look at your screen, I got the website up here. So one thing to be said about Nutty Buddy is what they've done is they've taken a rather mundane piece of equipment and they've marketed the hell out of it. And they've made it fun, and they've made it look kind of cool and goofy. And yeah, like, it looks fun. And so don't fall for that shit. Pardon me, but don't fall for that. Okay. Let's think strictly from a protective standpoint. But I would be remiss in saying that these guys aren't just great marketers and they've made cups fun. And that's cool and all. But again, at the end of the day, what happens here is that this is basically the design of this is not good for lacrosse goalies. And I'm going to explain why. All right. It's basically the same standard like cup idea, which is a plastic shell that the boys, the squares, are supposed to go inside. Okay. Uh, and then it's worn in a rather like normal looking jock, which is basically a waistband and a set of elastic straps that go around both butt cheeks and up underneath the boys, and they pull it tight. Problem is that very few kids actually wear their cups like that. What tends to happen is that you wear a cup like this and it tends to float on top. That's the biggest problem. Okay. I had a goalie a couple of years ago that got like a ruptured testicle. Okay. And it's not pretty. If you want to Google it, go ahead. If you're that crazy, go ahead. But the idea is that, oops. Hold on. Can't see my screen. Hold on. Can you guys see me okay? Oh, what'd I do? Hold on. Oh no. Sorry guys. Where's my screen? Oh, there I am. Okay. Phew. All right. Boom. All right. So the idea here is that the plastic cup sits on top and it floats. And so what happens is that if a ball strikes the cup at the wrong time, and you've got a testicle stuck underneath that edge, that hard edge of that cup, guess what's happening? That testicle is taking the full brunt of a ball. Okay. You basically are worse off wearing the cup in that moment than not having a cup at all, because like I would say, like, the cup has a hard edge. And now I know Nutty Buddy has a cup that like has a softer edge, whatever. But the concept here, it's okay. Like if you're playing in a position where you may or may not get hit with a ball. Like if you're going to get hit with like they have a video of a guy wearing it like during a rodeo event, right? Or paintball. I can see those things where it's a normal cup is fine. A hockey player playing out on the ice, maybe not a defenseman, who's going to be blocking shots or things like that. But the idea here that's really important to understand is that that fact we need something that fits a little bit more tightly to the body and doesn't allow for the boys to get stuck under the edge. Okay, this is really important. Okay, so yeah, in other sports, a basic cup like the Nutty Buddy is fine, but for a lacrosse goalie, it's a different beast. And one of the things that people understand is like, yes, and I get it. People swear by this. People swear by the cup, and they swear by other cups too. That's cool, but I want you to be really understanding here that when you watch a professional lacrosse goalie play the game and you see the level of athleticism that is not being taught at the younger ages, okay? I've been very vocal about this, that our goalies need to learn how to make more stops with their body. And one of the things that comes into play is the idea where when a shooter shoots from like low to high, right? Low to high, and the goalie doesn't really know when that ball is coming out. If a goalie drops their stick, assuming the ball is coming low and they're trying to protect the cage or themselves, they've now given up the top half of the net, and it's very easy to score, especially from in close. So what a lacrosse goalie needs to learn to do is need to drop or get the legs in the way. And when I say legs, I'm talking about like basically lower abdomen down, right? So from like the belly button down, while the stick maintains high, they can then make that save if the ball comes up top. If the ball comes up top, they use their stick. If the ball goes down low, they're using their body. And one of the things you might be using is your pecker, right? So I should have given like this a not suitable for work thing on it, but the Nutty Buddy does not protect that. And also any of those cups in that genre, they don't have a lower abdominal protection. And so this is where for the boys and the girls, this is really important stuff, right? Like, so we're not just trying to protect the squares, we're trying to protect that entire triangle from basically just below our belly button down. Okay. Really, ideally, your cup should be like any other piece of equipment, should take the brunt of a ball, the shot of a ball, and you should be fine, right? Now, of all the spots you can getting hit in the squares is probably the worst feeling ever. Okay. But also for the girls, the Jill, which is like a flat cup, is also not a is not pleasant, right? So I'll even recommend the cup that I recommend to girls. As awkward as it may look, you're still fine. So let me just explain this. So the only other goal is Joseph Michael, the swimsuit area. Yeah, there we go. Jonathan Redfern writes, deep trust and admiration, not trying to Amazon affiliate us to death. No, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm definitely not trying to Amazon affiliate you guys at all. That's the deal. Probably should, but that's not in my mode as a coach, right? Doesn't make any sense to me. So the cup that I do recommend though is the Warrior Nuthead. And I've got it up on the screen for those of you guys that can see it. Okay. And I think what's important to understand here is like when we look at other sports, ice hockey goalies are probably the most prone to getting in an exposed position where the swimsuit area, Joseph Michael, can get hit. Okay. When you're down on the ice and you're and I was a hockey goalie at one point in my life, when you're trying to make a save or you're totally exposed, right? You're basically, and I think what's happened is the lacrosse goalies have minimized their development as a position because a substantial number of them fear getting hit in the whats, right? So the Warrior Toolbox goalie nut hut, okay. And I think I've got this pulled up on Lacrosse Monkey. Yeah, but again, no affiliates there at all. All right. But the nut hut what it does is it has, again, that traditional cup, but that cup sits within. I don't know if you guys can see my screen. This edge is has a foam, um, like a foam ridge. And what ends up happening is the way this sits between your legs is that any sort of impact with that cup gets dispersed, and those outer ridges are hitting basically your inner thigh, right? So the boys aren't getting, I mean, you're still getting impact, but the idea is that everything is nestled nicely inside, and there's no hard edges, right? And it minimizes your ability to like get the squares caught underneath the edge, right? Um, and so that's really important. So yeah, people go like, oh, it's the same cup, it's just got all this extra material around it. Yeah, but it's that extra material that is going to save your goalie in a tough situation. Okay. Um, I remember distinctly, like in high school, this was a traumatic event for me, so I still remember it. I'm wearing one of those old school jocks and normal cup, and I got hit square in the whats from about 6 yards away. It's probably like 10, but anyway, as I've gotten older, it's gotten closer. But the idea is I got hit so hard that I was down on all fours for about 5 minutes. And it was really weird because one, I had never felt that level of pain before in my life. Because it just went up my spine and into the back of my head, like it was just crazy. But what it taught me was that when I was able to get back up and play, guess what was in my head for the longest time? Was worried about getting hit like that again. Okay. And so you've heard me say this before, your goalie is one ball away, not balls, but one ball away from ruining their confidence and their level of focus on the ball and learning where the ball is going, as opposed to um, just focusing on learning, seeing the ball, learning where that ball is going, and getting in front of it. Okay, so these types of cups, like the Warrior Nut Hut, this is like the top selling cup in Canada for hockey goalies. They can't keep them in stock; like they're just always gone, right? And that says something. Okay, that says something because I believe like a lacrosse goalie is probably at more risk of getting hit there than a hockey goalie is. But a hockey goalie, when they're in like kind of an act like a more athletic position, there's nothing else they'll go with. All right, so that's really important to understand. Okay, and when you first try these on, they're bulky, they feel weird, but over time they start to these folds you see in it, these start to, and you can accelerate this by just working the heck out of this thing. You can soften it up so all those hinges move. And it's actually two pieces. It's this upper area, right, that covers the lower abdomen. And then underneath it, there's this triangle that covers the boys, right? And so they hinge. So when a goalie, when they first wear it and they bend over, they feel it might go into their belly a little bit, but over time you never notice it. Okay, and it's just they break in, they feel awesome, and especially when they're sized right, there's no question in my mind. Okay, um, so for the people that swear by like the Nutty Buddy or any other cup similar to that, I would argue that they probably don't play a style of lacrosse that is world class, right? And so um, for our goalies, it's important to understand that eh, like I believe we haven't seen the best goalies play our sport yet, and part of it is because of protection, right? And so this is a critical piece of equipment that is going to give your goalie, male or female, confidence. Now there is a Jill version of this, I believe, too, for the girls. But even still, for the girls, I almost recommend this because it keeps the padding up and away from pubic bones, right? So because if I had a goalie a couple years ago who was wearing a Jill, got hit like just square, and was so bruised and swollen, just just didn't want to play for weeks, and then it was in her head for a long time. Okay, so I don't like that. So, but the people that swear by this, I would argue they don't play necessarily a style, or they are restricting themselves from playing a style that is more aggressive and more open to use their body. And And so that's why I refer people to wearing this style of goalie cup. Okay. Um, so don't fall for the marketing hype. Stay safe. All right. Um, and and again, I'm just gonna finish off on this topic. Remember, this is protecting your goalie and allowing them to play at a level and a style that is common at the pro level, right? But needs to be adopted earlier so our goalies can learn how to play with that freedom, all right, of being protected, and they're going to play at a higher level than what we currently see. Okay, that's really important to me. Um, um, Jonathan Redfern writes, I love this style as a parent because I don't have to ask that embarrassing question. I can look at it and see that they have it on. And yeah, actually, Cooper wears his playing in the field and forgets it's on. I did too, right? I was a goalie, and then if I was splitting halves with a goalie, I usually play long stick midi or close D, and I just leave it on, and it was no big deal, no big deal at all, right? So if you put this on, you go out, and all your kid's doing is focusing on it and how it feels, right? Then they're gonna be like, I don't like this thing. But if they play long enough where they all of a sudden go like, oh, they get lost in the game enough, then they'll go, oh, I didn't even know I had it. That's the tipping point. Okay, that's the tipping point. And any goalie that gets hit square in the balls with one of these versus a nutty buddy or anything else will vouch for the difference. Okay. All right. So how's that? Boom. Boom, 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 boom. Why the nutty? Okay. I didn't even have my banner up. Wow. Okay. Going over this. All right. So any questions on that? If anybody's got a question, you can leave me a comment. Got a lot of people on my page, and that unfortunately your comments aren't showing up on my feed, which I apologize for. But or you're in the group, I can't tell. All right, so on to our next one. How to ease the fear of a younger goalie going up against better shooters. And so this came from Yak Eric. So Yak, I'm sorry, I don't know where you're from. Um, um, and where is it? Oh, why is that coming up as a ticker? Hold on. Hiding that ticker. Oh, I see. Hold on. No, I want banner. Hang on. Changing, create a banner. Boom. Boom. Boink. Yeah. All right. Okay. Sorry. For those of you guys listening to me right now on the podcast, you're like, what the hell is he doing? So I'm just getting my banner set here. So, how to ease the fear of a younger goalie going up against older shooters. Now, this happens at all levels, guys. Like all levels. This happens from college kids going pro, like MLL, PLL stuff. It happens like high school into college, and high school to college is a big jump because you're looking at a 4-year, sometimes a 5-year jump in age. That 5 is extreme, but 4 is common, right? So you get a goalie all of a sudden going up against kids who've been lifting weights for 4 years, and it's like, holy shit, that ball's coming really fast, right? Or it happens to your 11-year-old kid playing high school JV or varsity or like whatever. Boys and girls, it's all the same, right? It's that step up in pace but one of the things that I always want to clarify with people is that there's actually 2 fears going on. A lot of parents don't realize this. There's the fear of expectation of letting people down, and then there's the fear of getting hurt. Okay, so there are 2 separate angles here. They might kind of intertwine. There might be both going on: fear of expectations, fear of getting hurt, right? Like, oh, if I get hurt and I don't play well, then I'm gonna let mom and dad down, or that sort of thing, or I'm gonna let my teammates down if I don't do very well. So, I have a very distinct memory of being in Lake Placid, New York, and I was up there training for the Olympic team in the sport of luge, and the Lake Placid tournament was coming up, and a kid who I knew through luge knew a guy that had a team up there, and they were short a goalie, and so I got to play for the Rochester Knights, and the Rochester Knights were like the top team, one of the top teams in the Lake Placid tournament every single year, and I was backing up a guy by the name of Matt Palem. And Matt was an All-American at Syracuse, and this turned out this Rochester team was all these Syracuse alumni. And there was this one dude on the team, and they called him Juice. And oh my god, now his name is flying out of my head. Oh, where's my New York guys? You got to help me out here. Totally flew out of my head. Anyway, he warmed me up, and I hadn't played a lot of lacrosse that summer because I was like heavy into my training for the Olympics, but I got the chance to play, and I was relishing the time for warm up because I'm like, I'm gonna get some dude to shoot on me, and so I got out there, and the first shot that I saved, I caught kind of like it was a little bit of the plastic, caught the ball and then the mesh, and I smelled burning rubber. Okay, and so for those of you guys that have played at this sort of level, you know what I'm talking about when you get to that point where you smell burning rubber coming off your stick. And that can be exciting. It can also like make you fill your pants sort of thing, right? So but I was like so excited at that point. But it was this level of like, oh my God, I was seeing the ball come out of his stick and I was just moving everything like just a little too slow. It it raised this level of anxiety in me that eventually I got to it and I played pretty well. And I actually played a few halves in that tournament, played really, really well, played better than Matt, which I was super excited about because he was like a college All-American and I was just coming out of high school. But the idea was this, is that I had fear of expectation. I also had a little bit of fear of getting hurt, right? But that kind of goes away as a goalie. You do start to embrace this like unnecessary affinity for getting like hit with a ball. It's kind of masochistic in some ways. But the idea was that, all right, I had to manage those two things. And I'm very aware of that when I'm working with goalies now at all ages, because it can happen, like I said, from your 8-year-old to, going up to play with the U12s, or your U14 playing a little high school ball, or so on. So you have to understand that fear is a natural response. Okay. Um, so if your goalie's, if you're sensing from your goalie that they're a little nervous about the weekend, you've got to manage like, all right, listen, are they playing up? So back to what I started today's episode with, talking about like long-term athlete development and Ishvan Bali and the idea of like, when you play in competitions, there is a percentage of games that you should be playing where the porridge is too hot, right? And so when that's the case, you've got to know. So there's going to be two tracks here. One is a practice track. So let's say your goalie's been asked to practice with a team, or your goalie's been asked to play a game with a team, right? So there's two things there, right? So if we're going up to play in a practice, the outcome of the practice isn't necessarily as important for the team. It's more important for your goalie, right? So that's where your goalie has to understand, like, all right, listen, porridge is going to be too hot, right? Faster balls than I've ever seen, right? I may risk getting hurt, right? So what you got to do in this case is, first and foremost, in a practice situation, is your goalie's got to come protected, right? I want that on the goalie because I want my team to be able to play at their highest level and not have to tone it down just for the kid in the cage, all right? So now sometimes we can do that to a point, sometimes we can't, right? But the idea here for practice is the goalie's got to come protected, right? So if that means throwing on extra shin guards or knee pads or football pants, whatever, you've got to get there, right? Because I think your goalie should be able to play in the cage without their stick and feel confident. That's a good kind of benchmark. Is if your goalie can go in the cage without their stick and make saves, it's probably a good sign that they're protected, right? If they're worried, that's a problem. Okay. So the idea is that they're going to go into this situation and their body is going to help get them ready. So their heart rate's going to be up. Their breathing is going to quicken. Their eyes are going to be wide, right? They're going to feel butterflies. We used to call them butterflies, right? Now they call it anxiety. Like, it's not, it's just butterflies, dude. Right. So we got to understand that's all coming. So as a parent or coach, if you can help your goalie understand that, hey, listen, I know how you're feeling. This is what right. You're feeling like you feel a little like tingling in the hands, right? A little bit, maybe. Okay. No. Okay. How you're feeling a little like lightheaded. Yeah, totally. Okay. Got it. Haven't eaten for days. Yeah. Got it. Okay. That's all normal. Right. So your goalie's got to understand that. I've got an article over at athletespecific.com. Just go over there and search for why athletes don't have anxiety, right? Watch that video. It's give you a lot of background on this, right? So, but the idea is that your goalie has a normal baseline every day, and now they're getting ready to go play at this higher level, and now they're going to feel not good because they're usually thinking about it when they can't burn it off, right? They're thinking about it during math class, right? They're doing Khan Academy, and really, they're not doing Khan Academy. They're thinking about the practice coming up this weekend, and that high school kid, the kid with the big muscles and the mustache that he's had since he was like 12, yeah, that kid. They're thinking about that, doing Khan Academy, and they're nervous, which is normal. But once they get to practice, now they have an outlet for all that nervousness, and they can apply that. So just make sure your athlete understands that hey, those nerves you're feeling, yeah, they're meant to help you move quicker and run faster and jump higher than you ever have before. Okay, so know that. So going into practice, goalie's got to be protected. Now, in a practice situation, sometimes we can manage the shooters, we can move shooters back, we can use tennis balls. That's all great. Okay. But if we're not managing distance of shooters and we're not using tennis balls, we got to pad up the goalie, right? Really, really important. Okay. Um, on game day, okay. On game day, I was having this discussion with one of our Lacrosse Goalie University goalies this week. Young dude, but I was explaining the idea about pain with a purpose. So all the moms listen to me now, and some of the dads, they'll understand this. The idea of like sucking up a ball on game day doesn't seem to hurt as much as it does in practice, right? So pain with a purpose is what I learned this when we had our first child, when my son Quinn was born. The midwife told my wife, like, say, listen, all the pain that you're going to experience here is nothing you can't handle, and the result is a baby, right? So if you were to have that similar pain somewhere else, you'd be like, oh my God, get me out of here. But because you're having a baby, it's pain with a purpose. It seems to all make sense. That pain makes sense. And goalies go through that too, where they have pain on game day doesn't seem to hurt as much as pain in practice. And that's true. Okay. That's true. So when your goalie is stepping up to play on a game and they're feeling that nerve, that fear and excitement are the same thing. Neurochemically, they're the same thing. It's just how you frame it. Okay. And it's really important to understand that. You can again, you can pad up the goalie, right? And for the protection conversation, I'll just share with you this. If you're trying to figure out if your goalie has a fear of getting hurt and they may be like flinching or they might be hesitating, that was a discussion I had with one of the Lacrosse Goalie University members this past week. The way to test is that if you put them behind like a pane of glass, like if you're practicing in a hockey rink, and in a dried out hockey rink, like maybe say you're doing box or whatever, and you put your goalie on the other side of the glass and you fire balls at him or her, if they move, no problem. They have but then they get out and they hesitate. That's a flinch. That's a protection issue. Because the pane of glass, or if you've got a backstop, like a baseball backstop, just put the goalie behind the backstop, put him in front of a net, and shoot on him and see how the goalie moves. If they move, no problem. In that situation where they are perfectly 100% safe, and now you take them out away from you take that fence away, and now that's a protection issue. Okay. So we can, again, going into a game situation, we can pad up our goalie, make sure that they're ready to play at that level. Because again, depending on the situation, let's say your goalie's going to go rescue a team. It's the playoffs and their lead goalie got, hurt in a paintball accident. I don't know. They had shellfish for lunch and now they've got an allergic reaction. I don't know, whatever. And so your goalie is coming into that situation to save that team. Well, that's different than if your goalie's just coming to a team and they need a goalie and, oh yeah, who's that kid in the cage? This is where coaching really comes into play. If your coach can really help your team rally around the goalie, right? And let's say, look, one of my Lacrosse Goalie universities this year, university members this year was starting as a freshman, and it was awesome. Like there was a senior goalie last year. There was a junior goalie ready to take things over. This goalie was like ready to kind of be the backup. Like he's going to be the number 2 on this really good. This is one of the top teams in the state. And the junior goalie transfers, like dad moves for work or something like that. So that junior goalie that is now supposed to be the senior is gone. So this freshman goalie is starting, right, for a program that has never had a freshman start. And it wasn't like this kid was like the best kid and he's starting over that junior or now senior. It's just like, oh my God, all we have is Jimmy, right? It's one of those. And so, but what can happen in those situations is the coaches can help a team really rally around that kid. Like it's the elephant in the room. All right, guys, we got Jimmy in the cage. We got to rally around so that we can give Jimmy balls that he can stop and not leave him out to dry. And that coaching turns a team into, and I've seen like amazing things happen in those situations where coaches coaches like help out, like you see defense start to rally, start to communicate with one another better than they ever have before, because because they now have another reason. It's not just we're trying to win the game. It's like, oh, we got to, come on, we got Jimmy. Like we got to give him something. And I've seen kids like that get scored on, and the defense comes right back to them and goes, "Don't worry about it, buddy. That was on me." And it's like, wow, holy smokes. But that's a great opportunity. And so there's no reason in that situation for a goalie to feel too much expectation, right? We take the expectation away off the goalie, say, listen, we have no expectations for you at all, Jimmy. Just get in there, do what you can. And Jimmy's like, okay, all right. Now Jimmy has to deal with like the increased pace of shots. If you have enough practice, and this goes back to understanding, how to ease the fear, is that you've got to get some opportunities where you get Jimmy in front of some better shooters. So unless this is like, our starting goalie dropped dead last night and we need Jimmy to play in the morning, usually we've got a few days notice, right? And so the first thing I would do is I'm getting Jimmy in front of the best shooters on our team. I'm going to, and maybe it's hopefully this comes from the coach, but if it doesn't, maybe it comes from the goalie mom or dad and goes, all right, guys, listen, hey coach, can you help me just get the best shooters you got, right? And you get 2, 3, 4 of them. You get pizza and Gatorades, and you come out and you go like, all right, listen, I need you guys from like 20 minutes to just shoot on Jimmy, right? And Jimmy's like, okay, and Jimmy gets to meet the guys, or Karen gets to meet the girls, and then it's and the shooters know what's going on. Right. They go like, all right, listen, we're trying to get our goalie up to speed. Right. This is a big deal. This is hot porridge, man. Goldilocks is freaking out. Right. So we got to get it to a point where Goldilocks is going like, all right, it's okay. The porridge it's just right. Right. So that's really important. So hopefully your coaches are on top of that a little bit, but if not, mom or dad goes, all right, listen, can we get on the phone and maybe I can Instagram that mom. I met her last weekend. We were at the t-shirt shop at the middle, we were at the food truck at halftime, right? Hey, listen, can we get the boys together like tomorrow night, and I'll buy pizza, and we just need them to shoot. They can come over. We work in the backyard, whatever. That's all you need. That's all you need. You need something to help in those emergency situations. So if that makes sense. Joey writes, adrenaline during a game helps that pain. It does. It totally does. But Joey, acknowledging that you're going to have that adrenaline at other times, might be practiced or whatever, also helps. That being said, I don't want to rely on adrenaline to have great performances, because if a goalie needs protection, then pat him up, right? Just pat him up, and that can help. All right. All right. It's good stuff. So if you like that, do me a favor, leave me a like or heart or whatever. It was real quiet today. You're lurking on me. I got big numbers here, but nobody's saying nothing except for Joey with a good comment of adrenaline during a game helps that pain. It does. Pain with a purpose, Joey. Joey, if you're ever pregnant, you'll know what I'm talking about. So no, you'll better yet, you'll get older, you'll be married, you'll have a wife, and you'll be having your first child, and you'll go to your wife, and she'll be like totally sweating and pushing and doing all that stuff. And you'll be like, I remember Coach Edwards at that lacrossegoalietips.com Facebook Live on Wednesday on election day, right? When he said pain with a purpose, honey, and she will grab you by the throat, but you'll be so excited you remembered what I said, right? And I want to hear about it, Joey. All right. So here's the deal. A couple minutes left. We'll do this one. BMX Bro 1 and 3 writes hi on YouTube. What's up, dude? How's it going? Can I see who that is? No, I can't see who that is. All right. Joey's on YouTube, too. Thanks, Joey. That's a great comment. Appreciate it. All right. So, final one for today. This came from Dallin Isaacson. Dallin? 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 From Louisville, Kentucky. And what he wanted to know is, how does a goalie learn how to read the ball and remain relaxed in the cage? Okay. So what's really important, I wrote an Instagram post a while ago and I said, it said you don't have a tracking problem, because a lot of people think like, oh, my goalie has a tracking problem. They can't follow the ball. No, no, no. You don't have a tracking ball problem. You have a I don't know where the hell the ball is going problem. And so 3 keys to making any save, right? If you got my lacrosse goalie cheat sheets, I talk about this in detail in there, I believe. Um, and the idea is you got to see the ball, you got to know where it's going, and you got to move in front of it. And so it's that middle part that I call the language of lacrosse. You got to learn where the ball is going. You got to learn what shooters are doing with their stick. What can a player do with the ball in certain situations, right? A couple weeks ago, I showed you guys that Instagram video of that. It was an indoor. Guy comes around the back of the cage from X to back left, and he's facing back left, and he's got the stick in his right hand away from the defender, so like no angle. He goes underhand behind his back between the defender's legs over the shoulder of the goalie. And I see those shots and I'm really in my head, I'm going, holy shit, like we got to stop that too now? Like what's the deal? Right? So in that situation, while it's a pretty extreme example, goalie has no idea what's about to happen because he's never seen it before. So if I came up to you and I used a word that you've never heard before, you're not going to understand it, right? Right? Like ever watch the spelling bee on ESPN? Some of those words you're like, what the hell is that? Is that English? Like, and usually it is. And so, but the bottom line is that I don't know what that word means. You don't know what that word means, right? Unless you've studied for it, right? Because the girl on stage who kicks ass and spells it, she knows the definition, she knows the word of origin, she knows all that stuff. She understands the language. So for goalies coming up, and like I had a call this week with one of my lacrosse goal university goalies, young dude, and I could just hear in his voice, he's like, how can I learn faster, like where the balls are going? And this is a young kid, right? And I'm like, dude, this is the stuff that takes the most time. All right. So this is the stuff that takes the most time. And even for, one of my girls this past week, this is a Division I prospect goalie. She's one of the top in the country. And she got caught off guard on a shot and was like, how the hell am I supposed to stop that? And I'm like, when the hell did you ever practice that? And she goes, I've never done that. I'm like, well, there you go. Right. Right. So because what happens is if we throw a goalie in a situation and we're just relying on our reactive ability to make a save that we've never seen before, that's a big ask. Right. Whenever you watch team sports, like a quarterback in the NFL is a good example here. They run a play and everybody's got a job to do, but what happens? They call it a busted play. And now all of a sudden the quarterback's got to like spin around because some dude's like breathing down his neck. And now what happens? He's got to improvise. Really, what we're trying to do is minimize as much improvisation as possible. And for goalies, we tend to forget this fact and we just think that, oh, well, a goalie's just they're trying to see the ball, know where it's going, and move in front of it on every shot. No, no, no. There are tendencies that you learn as you watch shooters. So this is one of the reasons why I vehemently disagree with drills that take shooters out of the process, right? So using tennis balls and tennis rackets or tennis ball machines or using quick, like, I'm going to throw, have you face the brick wall. I'm going to throw the ball over your shoulder, right? Or bounce it off some board. All that stuff is crap because why? The last bit, the reactive bit comes down to strength and conditioning, right? That the last part, like moving in front of the ball piece, that all comes down to your ability to move maximally in that situation, right? So, and that's where lacrosse is the hardest sport. It's the hardest sport in any, like for any goalie in any sport, lacrosse is the hardest thing, right? Field lacrosse, not like field lacrosse, man. It's hard because we got 6x6 nets like next to stop and we're buck naked practically. And we're trying to like figure out where the hell this thing going. But experienced goalies, what they've done is they've learned what shooters can do. They've learned the language of lacrosse. And this is where I believe, like, even at the pro level, we have guys that haven't done enough of that, right? They just haven't been conscious of like learning all of the facets of what can a shooter do with the ball? What can't they do in this situation, in that situation? So, I say this, like, our goalies aren't good enough to do those stupid reaction ball drills. They're not. They're not. They're not, because there's too much to learn in. So when I see goalies like doing like stupid ball drop things, or I'm like, dude, get in the cage, get a stick. Oh wait, I've got two goalies. I've got to deal with the parent on the sideline. Yo, Jimmy, get the short stick. Trevor, get in the cage. All right, do 10 shots and then switch. Right, Jimmy, you get in the cage. Trevor, you shoot. Oh, but coach, I can't shoot with a short stick. Trevor, what the hell are you doing? Right, right. You don't need to be doing wall ball with a goalie stick at home. You need to be doing wall ball with your short stick at home. Right, you be learning what the hell this thing does. Because when you learn what this thing does, then you understand how to stop it, right? And what I mean when I say this thing, I'm talking about using a short stick and learning what you can do and what you can't do. Okay, um, you know, like, but that being said, if you're looking for something fun, entertaining, fine, that's cool. But that's not my go-to ever. It's like the last thing. It's like after like broccoli and cauliflower and lentils. Then there's shooting on my goalie with no stick and using reaction balls. And like, I put this on my desk, guys. For those of you guys who can see me, I have one of these dumb reaction balls on my desk to remind me to always tell my goalies, don't bother. Right? That's the deal. Okay. Because there's too many people out there going like, oh yeah, you should use this and you should use that. No, you don't need a gimmick. You need to learn the language of lacrosse. All right. So you're in the right place. Here's the deal. Most shots missed are missed because the goalie has taken too much time to understand where the ball is going. Right? So think of this. Any shot you've ever seen taken on a goalie that your goalie has missed, if you take that shooter and they move the exact same way, they take the exact same shot, but you just move them back, like you move them further away from the cage, like a yard, 2 yards, 3 yards, whatever it is. You move them to a point and your goalie will make that save. Okay? Because why? They understand after that first ball goes by them, right? Like, think of that Instagram shot where the guy shoots one arm between his legs, behind his back, between the defenseman's legs, top shelf on the goalie. All right, fine. That goalie's like, dang, what the hell just happened? Can I see a video of that? Oh, all right. It's on Instagram. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I get it now. He goes behind the back, between his legs, between the guy. Okay, cool. All right. Let's try that again. So now the goalie knows, they've seen that. They bank that in their memory and they go, oh, I know what happens there. So let's try that again. This time, he knows now not to drop his stick. He knows now maybe he's going to make that save if it goes low with his legs, but if it goes high again, his stick's going to be right there. He can make that save. He now understands the language that shooter's speaking. So what we do, we'll try it again. All right, do it. Oh, I got beat again. Listen, just back up a little bit more. Go a yard away. Go 2 yards away. Let's try that again. Oh, wait, there it is. Now I got there. And so you go like, okay, well, he can make that save if that shooter is 2 yards further out or 3 yards further out. I'll tell you a fun story. So I'll end on this story for today. When I was in high school, I went to the Syracuse Syracuse University lacrosse camps. Some of you guys have heard this story maybe, but Syracuse was the top team in the country at the time. Syracuse and Cornell, I went to both those camps. And Gary Gate, some of you guys might know who Gary Gate is. He's a pretty good lacrosse player. At the time, he was like the top player in college lacrosse. And they were going to do this little example. They needed a goalie. And it's like, hey, we need a goalie. And I just got up and ran to the cage. And there's Gary Gate standing at the restraining line. And he's going to rip it on me. I'm like, yes, I'm so excited for this. And I come out to the top of the crease. I'm like, I'm cutting down the angle, man. I'm going to cut down the angle. I'm going to get this thing. He's shooting from 20 yards out. I'm cutting down the angle. Let's go. Let's bring it. And he ripped the ball full wind up, but he cracked his wrist at the very end, and the ball, this was a totally indoor Canadian box lacrosse move. And I had never seen this before. And he cracked his wrist at the last second. So he made this full follow through, but the ball like just kind of moonballed out of his stick. And so I'm like ready and waiting for this just cannon of a shot to come at me. And instead it's like this like doink whoop, over my head. And literally the ball went over my head. And in the time it took me to figure out what the hell was going on, and I had to backpedal a couple steps. That ball like bounced off the crossbar and went over the net, but it was really fun. But I'm like, dang, I've never forgotten that, because that to me tells me that, all right, as you learn the language of lacrosse, then you're going to have more understanding, and now you're going to be able to save a ball that's coming from closer and closer to you, as long as your strength and conditioning side picks up. Because again, if a ball goes by you, you've got to ask your goalie, hey, did you see the ball? Yes or no? Did you know where it was going? Yes or no? Or maybe, right? And then third, did I move in front of it effectively? And so usually where the breakdown is in the knowing, and then it took too long to know, and then that delays the ability for a goalie to move, right? And then the ball goes in the net, right? So we've got to spend a lot of time working on that, that knowing where the ball is going. Now I want to cover this. So Paul Schwartz writes, just see shots and the game speed slows down over time. Totally true. Now this, I don't know who wrote this one. The best shooters have unpredictable and unorthodox release patterns. That's not true. Okay. So I wish I knew who this was. Who is that? I'm trying to see who this was. Who is that? Okay. So people say this, all right? They go, oh, the best shooters have unpredictable and unorthodox release patterns. Not really. If you break that down, that is a really rare occurrence. Okay. It is a really rare occurrence. They don't have unpredictable release patterns, but they may. So we saw Brown in the last World Championships, and I did a video on that, I think last month, about like different release points, but the actual release is the same. How the ball comes, like where they may release from, varies. It is rare that a player like throws a knuckleball at a goalie, right? It's extremely rare, actually. I think it's more frequent that a ball, like a guy takes a shot and like does an underhand shot but bounces the ball like at their own feet, and so it meets the goalie at a really high. Those are really rare occurrences. So by saying that, whoever said that, what unfortunately what you've done is now you've put the fear of God into every goalie that hears that. Because what are they supposed to do with that? Like, oh, the best shooters have unpredictable and unorthodox release patterns. So who's that? Well, that sounds like your Gary Gate moonball story. After I saw that shot once, I knew I could read. Now I could read the hands. So that's the thing. I didn't just leave it and say like, oh, the next time he shoots on me, it's going to happen again. No, it's just an understanding of like, oh, now I know what a shooter does in that situation. I understand that language. I can now read the shooter, read the hands, read the body language, and see that. Because if you watch tape enough of college shooters, they're not like throwing change ups, not at all. And Gary Gate wouldn't do a shot like that in a game because I got 6 other guys around me to help pick that thing off, right? So while I appreciate you saying that, it's an absolute rare occurrence, right? Because go to any high school practice and see what they're practicing or see what kids are doing, and they're all shooting pretty much the same way, right? There's no kids who are all of a sudden, who are putting some sort of curveball on the ball. They just don't. Right. So it's the point is that your goalie needs to be out there getting shot on. And yeah, hey, if you've got a kid on your team who can shoot like and this is really important, you're teaching a goalie for the percentages, not the exceptions. Right. So unfortunately, that comment to me is like the exception rule. Right. It's like, oh, yeah, like my moonball story with Gary Gate. That was a total exception. I never saw that shot ever again. right? As long as I played lacrosse, right? And I have never seen it in a game, never seen it in world championships. So yeah, so that's great. But did I practice for that ever again? No, right? All I needed to do was see it once and go like, all right, in this situation, 20 yards from up top, me at the top of the crease, he throws a moon ball. It's never going to happen again, right? But now you go see a shooter who now shoots over the top or shoots sideways or shoots from low to high. My question is, okay, low to high shots. We're seeing more of those, right? My question is, how much has your goalie practiced saving that ball in practice? Probably never. Why? Because the coach shows up and they shoot from 15 yards from right out front. They're just going to do this. So I tell all my goalies, you got to spend at least 10% of every practice on something unique, but something that you may see again. Okay. So that kid on the Instagram photo who gets the underhand behind the back, whatever, like, okay, are you going to see that again? Maybe. We've seen that more and more. Okay. Um, um, yeah, so we're covering the same thing here. Okay, maybe that came out wrong, but they can do things like great low to high shooter or able to hide their release using the defender. Yeah, so that goes back to see the ball, know where it's going, move to it. If a shooter, again, how many times is like look at the last 10 games your goalie has seen and go, how many shots did your goalie see where the attackman wrapped it around the side of the defender, right? Go look through all the like all the PLL games you can get your hands on and take the cheat sheets and map it out and go like, okay, what type of shot just got scored on here? Was it something really bizarre and unique? I guarantee you those are less than like 5% of the shots the goalie sees. More often than not, they're like a fake inside, right? Oh, so guy fakes high, shoots low, fakes around me. Maybe it's behind the back. Practice those. But if you get too extreme, now you're wasting your time. Right? Now you're wasting your time. But the idea is that your goalie needs to learn the language of lacrosse, right? And that it needs to be a language that makes sense, right? So like if I'm learning German and I'm going to Germany, I may want to learn how to order a beer, but I may not need to learn how to order some like microbrew from Northeast Bavaria. You see what I'm saying? Right? So when it comes to reading the ball, and so for goalies who are not relaxed in the cage, this always kills me. People yell at their goalie, like, you're not relaxed in the cage. Well, no shit, they're not relaxed. They don't know what the hell's going on. They don't know, right? They don't feel comfortable. Like they're worried about getting hit, getting hurt, or they just don't know what the hell's like. They just don't have the bandwidth yet. They don't understand the language enough, right? Again, it's like using the language analogy. If you got to go pee in some foreign country and you don't know how to ask for where the toilet is, you're gonna be nervous, right? You might even pee your pants, right? So you at least got to know that to have a good day, right? So spend time learning those things and this is really important. So I appreciate whoever wrote these. Unfortunately, I can't see who the name is. I apologize for that. But the idea is like, don't get too caught up in the extreme. Okay. So yes, totally right. You know, you can do things like great low to high shooters. Okay. Well, how does your goalie stop that low to high shot? Right. What do they do? Right. And I've got some thoughts on that I want to get into now. Right. Or hide their release using the defender. Again, that's an iffy one, right? Because you don't see it a lot. Good shooters, yeah, more shooters should, right? I remember when I was young going to see Loyola play Brown, and they did a warm up drill where they had an attackman get in front of the goalie, and the middies dodged, and the middies shot at the feet of the attackman. The attackman had to jump, right? Like I'd never see that drill anymore, right? Like, come on, that was great. It was awesome. That's a way to screen a goalie, right? Don't do it anymore. So I appreciate that. The low to high shot is unique because we're seeing more of that. And I teach my shooters like if you're going to shoot and you get a low to high shot off, man, you've got all day. Like you're going to pretty much score 90% of the time because most goalies are not ready to put their feet in front of the ball, their legs in front of the ball, or the boys, the squares in front of the ball to make that save. They're all going to drop their stick. So go high, right? So learn how to Mike Porish, credit eye, quiet eye. Yeah, don't get me started on quiet eye. That's okay. Mike, was that you? Was that you? Was Mike Hyden? That's funny. Anyway, we'll talk later, Mike. Anyway, everybody, went a little long today, but I hope that helped. If you loved it, do me a favor, leave me a comment or a quote or like or whatever. Give me a heart, something. Show me some love. I don't get enough love. But listen, Stay safe today. All right. Stay safe today. Stay happy today. Don't beat up your neighbor. Okay. Um, and yeah, I'm glad you all made it. And I want to know what your goalie's doing. I want to know how your goalie's doing. And if you're not a member of Lacrosse Goalie University and I'm not helping coach your goalie, I want to coach your goalie. All right. So don't head on over to athletespecific.com. Get all the freebies over there too. Please, if you've got someone in the coaching world, an athlete, maybe they're not a lacrosse player, but they're just they're an athlete with big dreams. Please share that site with a friend. I sure would appreciate it. I'm looking to grow that this coming year. But that's it for now. Stay safe, everybody. Yeah, stay safe, everybody. All right, Mike Porash owned up for it. I love it. All right, but listen, take care, everybody, and I'll see you next week. Cheers. Bye.